Christian Miller.
It's time for the Miller's Edge with four-time SEC champion and two-time national champion Christian Miller.
Once again with Christian Miller taking him down.
Here's college football playoff national champion Christian Miller on Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC.
And welcome into this Talking Tuesday edition of the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Hope everybody is doing well today. Plenty to dive into on the show. We're going to, I guess, take a different route today. A lot of Super Bowl and halftime show talk yesterday, but today we are going to talk a little basketball. We'll definitely talk some football, as you guys know. At the top of the hour on Talking Tuesdays, we are joined by none other than Clint Lamb of Cover Crimson. So we'll do that with him, get the latest with football, have some good conversations in mind, in store for you guys regarding that with Clint. So we'll definitely dive into that. But there are some big news that is needs to be covered, right, in terms of Alabama men's basketball in the latest in the whole Charles Bediako saga. If you guys read the news or you see the title on the stream here, again, you can check us out live on YouTube at the Miller's Edge or live on Facebook at the Tide 100.9 page. We'd love to have you if you guys prefer to watch the show. But the verdict is in, guys, and I don't want to sound too excited because, I mean, it's not fun to read this out, but it is what it is. This is what we're dealing with, guys. Charles Bediako, former pro and current, well, he was current, I guess you could say former Alabama basketball player, again, two-time former Alabama basketball player, has officially been denied his preliminary injunction against the NCAA, which means he will no longer be eligible to play for the University of Alabama this season. So we'll talk about that, I guess, what went into that decision. We got some notes from the judge, also his lawyers on the case, and we're going to discuss all that. Plus, I'd love to get y'all's thoughts. 205-342-9904. Again, Charles Bediako officially denied the preliminary injunction against NCAA. So he will no longer be allowed to compete for the Alabama men's basketball team the remainder of the season. So, again, we're going to discuss the decision. We'll hear from the lawyers, president of the NCAA, Charlie Baker. I think also from the judge. I think I saw some stuff on that decision as well. And then also the next question that I want to ask you guys, or at least pose to you, is what happens here? Not only from, I guess, college athletics standpoint, because in my opinion, this was really a landmark case. Depending on which way it went, it could have set up things for other athletes that try to do similar deals, or even, in my opinion, with it being denied, I think it potentially is. I know as an Alabama fan, it's not fun to hear the news, but I guess if you're just a pure fan of college athletics and we're hoping that maybe we could start working back towards having a little bit more structure and more, I guess, hard guidelines, this kind of is a first step in that. So we'll talk about what it means for the rest of the sport and college athletics as a whole. But also, this is my question for you guys, is now that he's been officially denied and no longer has any eligibility, do you guys have any concern that there could be any punishment handed to Alabama for the games that he did play in? Because he did play in 5 total games. Alabama went 3-2 during that stretch. So they did pick up 3 wins, 2 losses. But my question to you guys is, do you guys feel like there will be or should be anything that comes from that nature, right, in terms of the games that he did play in? I don't know personally. I'll give my thoughts on it, and I'll try to look up some more. But I have seen a number of people express that they do feel like that should be considered. Personally, I don't think that ends up happening, but you never know. At this point, I don't even know. I mean, this was all new. I believe he's really one of the first guys to really get the hard no, especially with the circumstance or situation like this. At least it feels like that. So there's a lot of newness here that we're trying to navigate through, but definitely a really big headline here because, again, I mean, this was kind of, I'm not saying he was going to determine how college athletics moved forward, but the reality was, if he was approved in this case, I guess the situation with Amari Bailey, the former Charlotte player that's now taking visits, that would be affected. I know as people start turning their attention to football, and you look at guys like Aguilar and also Chambliss, who's trying to, I mean, he was denied, right? So that was obviously a good move in terms of trying to limit the number of years these guys are playing, but he's still fighting it. So we'll see what comes with that. But I just personally think with this decision, it helps, even if it's just a little bit, right? I mean, again, I know for Alabama, you were hoping, I guess the decision was the other way around. But in terms of just the integrity of college athletics and trying to maintain something, I know it's not amateurism anymore, but just trying to at least, I don't know, get some type of structure and guidelines in here. I do think that is at least one positive you can pull away from it. So we'll talk about that and more. Again, we got Clint Lamb coming up at the top of the hour. We'll talk football and more with him. And plus, we want to talk with you guys on this Talking Tuesday, 205-342-9904. If you guys want to get on the phone lines, we'll take your calls before we get to Clint at the top of the hour, and then we'll take them after we finish up with Clint, which will probably be around 12:30 or so. Plus, we've got our official representation here on the stream, Adam Lamparello of Lamparello Law. So we're going to get his thoughts via the chat on everything that's going on, because he did offer a lot of great information last week when we were watching this case. And now that we've got a decision, we'll lean on our official representation of Lamparello Law to give you guys even more details. So that's what we got on tap today on this Talking Tuesday. If you're just tuning in, don't go anywhere. We're going to hit this first time out. When we come back, we keep on rocking and rolling right here on the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Quick timeout. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Weather brought to you by Tidwell Chiropractic, the only third-generation chiropractor with over 28 years experience in Tuscaloosa. Call Tidwell Chiropractic at 752-7503.
All right, guys. Who we got in here? Yakenji, what's up? BJ, what's up? Mike. Nick, what's going on? Agent, what's up? Travelpreneur, what's up? Yeah, hope all is well. Hope all is well, Nick. Agent says, it's not right they pick and choose. Why not do the same across the board with every team that has G League players or from Europe that has played in the European League or anything similar? We'll talk about that and the differences. I mean, definitely a fair question, but we'll talk about some of those differences and what I think they probably need to start turning their attention to at this point, now that they've made this decision. Crystal, what's going on? Our guy Adam, again, official representation of the Miller's Edge, man. It's always good to have legal representation. If you guys don't have any, make sure you guys check out Lamparello Law, website lamparello-law.com. Will be launched officially very, very soon, so be on the lookout for that. Our guy Adam will take great care of you, but not just representation, but also any type of test prep, financial planning, career planning. I mean, you name it, they've got you covered. NIL, representation, academic misconduct. They do it all, man. Seriously. So make sure you guys check them out. I'll get you even further details once everything is officially launched. But the website is still in progress. So give it, I think, a couple more, maybe another week or so. But mentoring, exam, test taking preparation, subject matter mastery, application strategy, personal statements, resumes, you name it, man. They got you covered at Lamparello Law. And they got us covered here with the news, man. I was hoping Adam was in here early so we could get his expertise. So let's see what Adam has to say again with very, very, very gracious super chat, man. Adam says, Christian, for Bediako to have won, he would have had to show that denying him eligibility would have caused him irreparable harm. This was the one area I thought his argument was weak, and the judge ruled on precisely that. That makes perfect sense. Yeah, and you said it. Adam did say that. Was it Friday we were talking about this when they initially were having the hearing? Adam did mention that. And the other point that I need to bring up was about what was it? The judge mentioned now he's more than welcome to sue for any financially sue for any, I guess income or money that he would miss out on. I'm drawing a blank on the terms I'm looking for. I'm sorry, guys, but so that is something to know. It really was just, we can't rule you eligible to continue playing, but you're more than welcome to pursue a case in terms of recovering any of the money that you feel like you missed out on because of this situation. So, and not to mention, I mean, he can go play pro ball. I know it seems like from a lot of perspectives, it kind of feels like, oh man, like hate it for him. And, I'm sure he definitely wanted to continue playing here without a doubt. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's still young. I mean, he can go, basketball, you can play pro pretty much everywhere. So I don't know if he is. I can shoot him a text and see if he wants to jump on. Let's see. Let me send him a text real quick. All right, I just checked him out. I just shot him a text real quick. All right. And welcome back into this Talking Tuesday. This from the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. All right, we're talking about the Bediako case, the latest officially, and it came last night, or I guess afternoon or whenever it was. It was yesterday, though. But long story short, Charles Bediako officially has been ruled ineligible after the decision was made in the preliminary injunction against NCAA, and that means he no longer can suit up for Alabama men's basketball. So we're talking about that whole deal. And to my understanding, he is able to pursue he can sue for any money that he feels he's going to miss, like grievance, I guess, or money that he feels he's going to miss out on. But the decision was made mostly because, and like Adam said, he would have had to show that denying ineligibility would have caused him irreparable harm. And Adam did mention last week, like he says right here in the chat, that was one area that he thought his argument was weak, and the judge ruled precisely on that. So, look, and I know somebody also mentioned the differences and how does this all compare to the European guys and the G League players. So let's talk about that. Let's discuss that, because I know I get it. There's like, well, he's ineligible with these guys. I believe the judge mentioned that, or at least the NCAA, I think, actually mentioned that there probably was a mistake on ruling the Baylor guy eligible. Now, they also differed in the sense that Bediako was the only player, again, to my knowledge, and I looked this up and I could be wrong, but to my knowledge, I'm gonna move this out the way for just 2 seconds. That way I can, all right, good. That came to college, played in college, then went pro, and then returned, right? So that's the biggest difference in terms of the European guys that are playing or some of the other guys that might have played in the G League. I want to say Bediako, and I could be wrong. Correct me, guys, if I'm wrong. But I want to say Bediako is the only player to come to college first. And that was the main decision point, I think, from the judge on this whole deal. That, look, I mean, they don't want it to where people, and even from the NCAA's perspective, it wasn't that he necessarily played in the G League, because there are other guys that played pro. It was more so that he came to school, he declared for the draft, he made the decision to leave, and then was returning. And I'm just going to be honest with you. This is my perspective, man. I do think it was important to kind of put your foot down with that, because if not, and you set the precedent that people can come to school, choose to leave and go pro, then come back. If you do it for him, and then you have to start, everybody's going to use that as an example. And that was, in my opinion, probably one of the main reasons why it wasn't going to get approved, even though the other guys, yes, I get it. They also have played pro. But here's my thing. Now that they've made this decision, I think it makes it a little bit easier going forward, maybe, for them to try to start cleaning up some of these rules. I'm with you guys. I believe that if you're either going to let people have some type of, I guess, freedom in terms of going and playing pro, then playing college, especially like the overseas folks, or I guess maybe if it's a guy here that's drafted, which you can't even do that anymore. You can't get drafted out of high school like that. I have to go back and look about the whole deal with the Baylor guy, because now I'm confusing myself. But the way I view it is, maybe you can have like an age limit, because like we gave the example the other day. I think if you have a pro overseas, like in Europe, and the guy's like 17 or 18 years old, and he plays a couple years, and then he's like 19 or 20 years old, and he wants to come over here and play college, I don't think you necessarily have to rule him out completely, but I think there should be like an age limit on that. Even though they played pro, to me, it just feels a little bit different, in my opinion. But when you're talking about coming to college and then declaring and then trying to come back, I'm sorry, just personally, I couldn't get behind it. I couldn't. It just felt like, I mean, we're already so far from what college athletics used to be. And I know it seems like, well, what's one more thing going to do? But in my opinion, man, it's starting to get out of hand. And here are some of the comments from various people with this whole deal. You got NCAA President Charlie Baker on the ruling. He says, common sense won around today. The court saw this for what it is, an attempt by professionals to pivot back to college and crowd out the next generation of students. College sports are for students, not for people who walked away to go pro and now want to hit the undo button at the expense of a teenager's dream. Now, definitely a little far-fetched with the whole the teenager's dream expense and all that. I kind of understand, but I think it's a little bit of a stretch. But I do understand the whole point about coming to college, then going pro and trying to come back. That's the part to me that I knew that would be a little tough to try to justify. One of his lawyers, I believe this is, tweeted this: deeply disappointed in Tuscaloosa's court denial of Charles Bediako's request for an injunction against NCAA. This ruling ignores that an athlete's NIL value is directly tied to his ability to play, overlooks that NCAA rules do not distinguish between athletes with prior college experience and those without, in contrast with eligibility grants to many other former pros. We fight on for fairness. So I don't know, Chase, Reed. I just feel like it boils down to, I guess, the perspective that you're looking at. If you're going off of the basis that, hey, man, yeah, he played pro, but so did all the other guys from Europe or a couple of the other G League guys, then he should have been deemed eligible. But then if you look at it from the sense that the difference is they didn't come play in college first, then leave, then try to come back, that to me is kind of the issue here. I mean, what's y'all's take on this whole decision that was made?
Christian, I think you hit it spot on. I think it's all about perspective, and my perspective of the whole thing is, if you do go pro, there has to be a line set of, all right, when is it actually that you are pro or you are foregoing college? And once you do that, like all I ask for is fairness, and I'm not saying, this has only happened to Alabama where they're, denying someone. Like, there's been other players that have been denied, I'm not denying that, but when there's been other players that have been accepted, I just think that it should be equal along the entire collegiate field, not just one specific team, not one specific conference, the entire field.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I think that's part of the reason why you have so many people that are kind of on different sides and are frustrated with this whole thing, because on one end, I understand that, as Alabama fans, you're going to be frustrated seeing other teams that are utilizing pro players. But then from the outside looking in, what they see is, okay, midseason, you have a guy that played for a university 2 years ago. He forfeited his eligibility to go pro, and then mid-season looked to return to a team that was desperately needing some type of help in that fashion. The 7-footer is what we needed, somebody down low, and he comes out of nowhere, right? Like, I get it. I mean, both perspectives, they make sense, but in my opinion, if you do, I guess, have hopes or desires like I do that we start cleaning all this mess up, which is not ever going to be fully cleaned up, but you're trying to, at least in my opinion, I can say, I mean, listen, I hate to say like this, but if you are trying to find a positive from an Alabama perspective, at least you can say, well, hopefully this means if they're going to make that decision moving forward, they're going to continue to try to rule against these cases in this fashion and try to find some way to clean up college athletics the best that they can. Now, I don't know there's not going to be an immediate fix for the European guys. Now, maybe they revisit something like that this offseason. Maybe they take a look at those rules. But in my opinion, I don't have a problem with some of those guys if they haven't come to school just yet, because they've never started their college career, right? I know it's pro, but I don't know. I just equate it to being a little bit different. And my thing is, if there's an age, like a cap on the age, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to it if they're young enough. But if not, then no. But to be fair, I wouldn't be mad either if they just say no pros at all. If you play any type of pro ball, you're ineligible. I have no problem with that either. If we're going to go that route, let's just go that route and just keep it simple. Any type of pro experience, you can't play in any form of college athletics. To my knowledge, that was always the rule. I mean, with any sport, it's always been like that. To be fair, I don't even know when it really became a big thing with getting these guys from overseas to come play in college. I don't know if that's a little bit more recent or what, but in my opinion, like I said, I'm not mad about having some type of age cap for those guys, but it's hard for me to justify a guy coming to school, forfeiting his eligibility, then trying to get it back. To me, that would have it would have been a whole, I don't know, roller coaster of other guys. I mean, then you look at football players. What's stopping a guy from football saying, oh, well, I left school as a junior. I only played on the practice squad, or I only played in the UFL a couple games. Now I want to come back. And I just felt like you're running the risk of that with this case. So I hate it for Bediako because I understand him. He's a great young man. I know he didn't mean any harm in this. I know his teammates really enjoy him. And the good news is Nate Oates did confirm that he will keep his scholarship so he can finish up his school and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I mean, I want to be clear. I mean, like, I know that they try to argue that there's no telling what happens with them. Listen, this guy can go back and go play in the G League if, they feel like he's good enough. Nobody's going to turn down a 7-footer that they feel like has potential. So he can go play there. He can go play overseas like a number of other basketball players do, make a lot of money now. Yeah, it is unfortunate that in college you can make such good money. But again, I mean, it's a situation where he probably got bad advice. And I'm not trying to blame him, but the reality was, I mean, he had more. He could have stayed in college. I mean, it just was what it was. And it's no different for anybody else that chooses to forfeit eligibility. So you guys know how I feel about it. I've been saying that, not cheering against us or anything like that. I just want the sport to be cleaned up. I want it to be as close to amateurism as it can be, even though that's far gone. And I just feel like this is maybe one step in that direction. But hate it for him and the basketball team, but it kind of is what it is, something we kind of expected. All right, we got to hit a quick timeout. We come back. We get y'all's thoughts on this. See, we got a number of comments here on the stream. If you haven't already, man, check us out at The Miller's Edge on YouTube, at Tide 100.9 on Facebook. We're talking about the whole Bediako decision. What do you guys think about it? Do you think it was fair? Do you think it was the right call? And then the next question is, what happens from here? Do you guys believe Alabama's at risk of having to forfeit some games? Again, he played in 5 total games. They went 3-2 during that stretch. Could we be at risk of having to give up some of those wins? We'll have to see, but we'll talk about it coming up right here on the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230, WTBC.
Hey guys, are you ready to...
Let's see. Y'all are talking about food in here, man. Y'all got me hungry. I think they just need to restructure the whole thing, clear rules, but it's dumb to let so many other guys play but draw the line at Bediako, who's not even that old. Yeah, but let me ask you this, Gray, in terms of you left another comment. Let me see. I get the college thing, and it's kind of bad to leave college and come back, but that being said, I think it's worse for the game that a European can play pro ball, then get 4 years at 21. That's a fair argument in terms of them coming in at 21. If they play 4, even 5 years, they're at 25 years old at least as a senior. I mean, if you're saying what's worse, I mean, one could argue the older players probably it's not ideal, but that's kind of what we've gotten recently with the whole COVID years and all these extra years guys have had. I mean, with football, we've had guys that are 23, 24, 25 playing. And I'm not a fan of that either. I mean, should they just put an age cap in general for college athletics? There's never been that. I mean, remember, there's been quarterbacks that have played. Oh, now that I think about it, somebody asked this question. I think Mike asked a question about playing another sport. I mean, think about it. There's guys that have gone on and played professional baseball, then they come back to college and they play football. And they'd be what, like 25, 26? I mean, I'm not a fan of that either, but it's a good point, man. Look, I think both are not ideal. Both aren't great, but my thing is, like, I'm just looking at it individually right now. And when I look at it individually, and maybe it's just because it's my experience playing, but I'm just imagining if we had somebody like declare, like, hell, I'm even imagining, say somebody was ahead of me, right? Say the guy in front of me, an outside backer, declared for the draft, was gone, and then shows back up like a year later. I don't know, man. Like I'm just a firm believer. Once you declare, you declare. Like that's a common rule. You know what I mean? Like, and if we're being honest, if there was no Europeans playing, then it would be no question. They would say, no, you forfeited your final years of eligibility to go pro. That is what it is. The only reason they were even considering it is because you do have Euro guys playing. That's the only reason they considered it. But everybody already knows the rules, even as players. I mean, you know, if you declare and go pro, you can't come back to college, or at least that's how it's always been. Duke had a lacrosse player a couple years ago that went to the military and came back when he was 27. So that's interesting too. When is declaring, Reed asked? So, like, for the draft, I mean, there's literally a period. Like, you have to submit paperwork. We'll talk about it. That's a good point. And welcome back into this Talking Tuesday edition of the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, talking about this Charles Bediako case. We will be talking some football here in a little bit. Clint Lamb coming up at the top of the hour. He joins us from Cover Crimson. All right, so before we do that, let's finish up a little bit with this Bediako situation. Again, he was denied, no longer is eligible to play for Alabama. What does that mean? And we'll talk about here in a second, what does that mean for Alabama in terms of the games that he did play. But visiting with some of these chats that we do have here on the stream, I saw Gray had mentioned he thinks that they need to restructure the whole thing, get clear rules. Doesn't like that there's so many guys that are able to play, like overseas guys, and then they draw the line with Bediako. And he also says, I get the college thing, and it's kind of bad to leave college and come back. But that said, I think it's worse for the game that a European can play pro and then get 4 years at 21 years old. And that's why I'm kind of like, I mean, maybe you have some type of age cap on it. But like I said, I think during the break, my thing is I'm just looking at it individually. And I think with him, the biggest thing is he can't, not even I think, it is what it is. And that's what the court said. That's what it boils down to. He came to school, he was playing college, and then he declared to go pro. And to answer Reed's question was like, how does that work? So when you declare, I mean, you officially declare, right? Like you have to like basically fill out paperwork to enter the draft, so to speak. Now, if you exhaust your eligibility, to my knowledge, I don't think you necessarily have to fill out the paperwork like that. And then this is for football. But for underclassmen, you have to fill out paperwork and you like to basically acknowledge that you are entering the draft. So I'm assuming that it works the same way for college basketball. And that's all I'm saying, guys. I mean, like, listen, from the basis of other European guys are doing it, I'm all for it. I would say, yeah, make sure there's parity, let him play. But none of those guys came to school first, man. And that's just the biggest issue for him. If he never played for Alabama, there would be no conversation. He would be just like all the other guys that played professional, whether it was overseas or in the G League, and they would just let it happen right now because that's kind of I guess I wouldn't say the precedent, but that's what they're allowing. They've ruled those guys eligible. Now, they did acknowledge there might have been a mistake made with the decision on the Baylor guy, but I have to go back and do more research. To my knowledge, he was selected. It said something like he never played in college, but I thought they got Reed. Didn't they get rid of the old what was the deal about getting drafted out of high school? You can't do that anymore. So how would that make sense?
Now I'm not exactly, fully entailed with the guy that you're referring to. I've just been speculating in my head. And what I was asking, when I was telling you like what is declaring is because it's like that's the whole argument, that a pro cannot return back to, or at least that I think that it should be, a pro should not be able to return back to college or go to college, right? But the real question is, when is the line that you are pro? Is it when you have declared? Is it someone overseas? And how do you kind of that's the real question that I'm trying to like at least figure out.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So listen, I think, well, yeah, I get what you're saying. You're saying if you like declare, but you don't like go through with it. Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying as in the sense of like, because if correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the NCAA just trying to prevent professional athletes who have moved on or just are not playing in college to go or to return to college? Correct?
Yeah. So that's how I get what you're saying. So on one end, you got the whole deal, like professionals cannot play in an amateur sport. But then it gets confusing and muddy when you got guys playing overseas and whatnot. But then they're also with Charles' case, and this is, I wish I had the text. I was reading or listening to this earlier. The biggest thing that they mentioned was him coming to school and then leaving. Like that's like the main basis for their decision, pretty much to rule him ineligible. I know a lot of people are thinking it's, oh, well, they're just trying to make an example out of Charles, but it's. And yes, but not because he played pro, but because he came to school, then went pro. That's the example that they're trying to make. And I'm sorry, but I agree with that because I don't want that spilling over to other sports. That, to me, once you, like, we all know, like, as a former athlete, college athlete myself, now I stayed the whole time, so I had no choice. But I'm just saying, I mean, like, even like with the Chambliss and Aguilar, like all these people trying to bend these. I just feel like the more cases that we do see them put their foot in the ground, the less we'll start seeing of these things have to keep happening, and more we can kind of get back to. Because to be fair, like I don't think Charles is the only person, quote unquote, taken away from high schoolers. I do think the European guys also do the same, because what's going to be more appealing to a basketball coach? A high schooler that's 17 years old that has a lot of potential, but it's at his potential, or a 20-year-old guy that's played pro a few years over at Barcelona, and now he's able to be a freshman at 20 years old with the experience. I also don't think that's right. So I want to be clear. I don't want people to be frustrated just because, I'm saying I'm not in favor, but I agree with the decision that Bediako, with his specific situation, probably shouldn't have been ruled eligible. But I'm not a fan of the Europeans that are playing. But the problem is, I don't think you can just do a whole big sweep and just go say, all right, now that we ruled on Bediako, right now, if you have any type of European experience, you're immediately, you can't do that. So I think what's going to happen is in this offseason, maybe they'll try to meet on it and figure some things out. Real quick, I wanted to explain this real quick, because I know a lot of people bring up the Baylor guys. So these are the biggest differences between the two players. So Bediako signed multiple NBA contracts, including a two-way contract with the Spurs and also standard G League contracts. And he played 3 full seasons in the G League under NBA team control. And compared to James Nagy of Baylor, he was drafted 31st overall in the 2023 NBA draft. He never signed an NBA contract, nor did he play in an NBA or G League game. Allegedly, this is according to AI. So I don't. Hopefully that's right, but he never played an NBA or G League game. His rights were held by the Hornets, but he remained a draft and stash international player and was never considered a true NBA employee like Bediako was. So the difference is, according to AI, now this, sometimes these things are wrong, but it says Bediako was contractually an NBA player. Nagy never was under an NBA contract professionally. And so to answer mine and I guess the question of others about, well, how was Nagy drafted without playing in college? I forgot that the whole thing is you can go overseas, kind of like LaMelo Ball did, right? And that's what he did. He played professionally in Europe for Barcelona when he was drafted. So that's why I was like, wait, he didn't play in college? So no, he did not. He played overseas, and that's where he was drafted from. So that's the biggest difference between the two. So I mean, if you want to argue on the front of that, they both were professionals, I'm all with you. I'm with you completely. I get it, but there is a main difference between the two when it comes to that. So all right, we got to hit a timeout. When we come back, we'll keep on rolling. We got the Pastor Payne on here like you guys requested. We got Clint Lamb at the top of the hour. Talk some football here in a minute on the Miller's Edge. Time 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Quick timeout. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Gene Poole. And I'm John Poole of Hudson Poole Fine.
Can you hear us? All right. Can you hear us?
Yep.
To us.
I can.
All right. Good deal.
What'd you do differently?
I just took us both off the stage real quick and then put us back on there, and it worked. Oh man, yeah, we're talking about this whole Bediako thing. We got Clint Lamb at the top of the hour. We're going to talk some football, but yeah, he's been officially denied his injunction and is no longer eligible. So we're trying to figure out. My question is now: is Alabama at risk of having to forfeit games?
Yeah, I'm thinking about. Didn't he just play Auburn game?
He played 5 games. We went 3-2 with him playing.
Was he any good?
Yeah, he was pretty good. I mean, shoot, he definitely made a difference. I mean, I wouldn't say he's perfect, but definitely provided a little bit of a, I guess, spark. I mean, we were dealing with some injuries. We were definitely struggling down low. Having him back, I think let us play Sherrell like the 4. I mean, it definitely was. We were a much better team with them, without a doubt. Everybody's saying what's up to you, by the way, in the chat.
What up, chat? I'll let your boy. I'm on the way to my sit-down spot. Might be 15 minutes before I get there. I was eating my lunch in the car. It's going to be 76 degrees in the day.
Dang, yeah, we got 63, but it's cloudy.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, I'm looking this up. It says with NCAA rule, Bediako ineligible. Alabama went to court and received. Oh wait, no, that's the beginning of it. Let me see.
I just think it's dumb now to let the man play 5 games. You probably ain't got that many left in the conference. I mean, why you let him come back and play, enroll in school, and then tell him, nah, you can't? I mean, it's stupid.
I mean, it is what it is.
NCAA is just stupid.
I mean, but what are your thoughts? Hold on, we're about to come back. I'll let you answer that when we get on here. I'll let you answer that in a second.
Never feel.
Oh God. Shoot, you gonna sing like that? Maybe they need to book you to do the Super Bowl halftime show. Maybe folks will get behind you. They don't like my boy Bad Bunny. They ain't want him. Bad Bunny. You didn't watch the halftime show?
Well, I was driving. I had church, remember? So I was driving home. I heard it, but I didn't really watch it. And I got glimpsed down. But I mean, why are they mad at Bad Bunny?
Who knows, man? A lot of people think.
Why? Because they couldn't understand it. I'm sure you loved it because you probably understood everything he said.
Nah, I don't understand everything, man. That Puerto Rican accent is a different level. But no, I mean, listen, I understand people a little like, because they couldn't understand it. But I mean, at the end of the day, music's a vibe, man. You can't tell me how many songs have you heard?
I think the entertainment was amazing.
The production, it was great.
Oh, that was awesome.
He did a phenomenal job. The problem
was
the
dude's a global megastar. I mean, U2, all these other people they've had, they're not American.
I know. Trust me, I know. But the problem was people went into it thinking he's going to push this whole political thing.
He didn't even do that.
No, that's all I'll say. I'm like, the people that claimed that he was going to do that also claimed they weren't watching it. They're watching something else. They're the ones saying that. I'm like, how do you know what? First of all, how do you know what he pushed or did if you didn't watch it and you don't speak Spanish?
They're a bunch of idiots. I mean, just a bunch. I mean, they're. No,
then my guy agent, he's funny. He's like, well, don't look up the lyrics because the lyrics are like they got sexual stuff. And I'm like, brother, have you read Kid Rock's lyrics? Who also
Kid Rock is the worst ever. And then they put him on there trying to sing a Jesus song. I'm like, man, dude, he's a freaking gasoline draws on going. He's so far from a Christian. Like, they need to stop this mess, bro.
Trust me. I don't get me started. It was I handled it well yesterday. Though I was trying to just tell people it's not that deep, man. But hold on, we're about to come back. And welcome back into this Talking Tuesday. This is the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. We've been talking about this Bediako thing, but now we're going to talk a little bit more with somebody else that you guys are familiar with. The Pastor Payne now joins us. We just were cracking up a little bit. He was singing while we were on break, man. I told him maybe they need to book him to do the halftime show next year. Maybe it won't be as controversial. I mean, you can understand him, and he's got some pipes.
And look, controversy. It don't matter who they book. I mean, they're gonna find something. I mean, come.
What would they say about you though? What would they say about you though?
Oh well, everybody not. You too golly, talking too much about the Bible. Oh well, they shake their booty too much. Oh, they skirt too short. Oh, he's speaking in Spanish. I mean, this is not Puerto Rico. I mean, it's like. He gonna bring up all this, I don't know, ice baby. He gonna talk about that. The man didn't even do all of that. The man just said, hey, love trumps hate. That's all he said, basically. That everybody's a part of America. I mean, that's in America. We all one. Listen, I didn't understand the lyrics. I was driving from church listening to it. I thought about you. I like Christian to translate, but I don't care about the lyrics. I didn't even know who Bad Bunny was. I don't. All I do is I know who Jesus Christ is. I don't care who they put out there. They've had Pitbull, they've had Janet Jackson, Boo fall out. They've had every entertainer out there that you can imagine. And now all of a sudden, because they politicize everything in this world, they want to have truth. Let's do our own America halftime. And you got Kid Rock, who is so far from Jesus, gonna put him on the talking about singing that Jesus song. I'm surprised lightning didn't fall. And you talk about the lyrics. This man cusses and called everybody about the Trump thing with a child of God, but now all of a sudden he's a Christian. Y'all better tighten up. Yeah, there's enough sin. There's enough stuff for everybody. Nobody is righteous, the Bible said, not even once. All you perfect people out there, you need to take a couple and sit down somewhere and get your Bible and read about grace and start living for Jesus and stop depending on politicians and people that you're promoting, and that's all you're about. If you want a Christian show, get some real people out there that love Jesus, not somebody that'll hold a Bible at a church and then in front of a church and go tell at Charlie Kirk's funeral how he hate people. The total opposite of God. That's sin, by the way. But, people, even my preacher friends, they'll go off about, oh, did you see they had a gay person on there? But then if anything come out of the conservative movement about hatred and anger and treating people wrong, they don't stand up for that. They'll stand up for same-sex marriage. They'll stand up for transgender playing a sport. They'll stand up for, sin is sin. And God don't have a measuring stick from 1 to 10. It's sin. It don't matter whether you tell a lie, you cheat on your taxes, or you sleeping with a man and you're a man. God judges you as a sinful person, and if you don't repent, then you're going to be separate from God, and that's a problem for all of us if we don't know Jesus. So I'll leave that right there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I said plenty yesterday, so I don't even need to respond to that.
Bad Bunny, good for him. I don't know nothing he said. I don't know. I wasn't dancing to the lyrics. It's about entertainment. And by the way, let me just say this. Here's what the NFL Roger Goodell is doing, by the way. They want to be global. They want to be global. You got the biggest global star that people listen to. Put him on the NFL stage. What are they doing? They playing football over the pond everywhere. So this is a money marketing thing. This wasn't a politicized thing. This is about expanding the brand of the National Football League. If you think it's about politics, you done lost your mind.
And that's what I just was trying to politely say yesterday. I mean, I forgot to really explain that because people are like, "Oh, it's about an agenda." I'm like, the only agenda is for the NFL to just spread the game of football.
Getting them some more money across the pond dollars. That's what it's about.
Yeah, and listen, all of my friends that are from Spanish-speaking countries, they want to learn about football. It's becoming more popular overseas, and the NFL is expanding when playing games in Germany, Brazil, Mexico. I mean, if you're talking about an agenda, that's the agenda to expand the game of football. It's that.
Yeah, simple. They need to stop all this mess, man. It's just divisive, and it's sad. It really is sad that this world has come to this place. But I'm not shocked for any of you Bible readers out there. Just go read 2 Timothy chapter 3, and Paul will tell you about all this stuff that's happening in this world that is happening right now. So it really don't even matter because God already said the stuff is going to happen. So I'm not shocked at all. And that's why my trust is not in politicians or this mess. It's all in Jesus. And I'm going to stay right there. And I'm going to choose to believe that to the day he called me home. I'm going to take my chances on that instead of a man that's in the flesh. So that's what I'm going to do.
Facts. Good stuff, man. Seriously, good stuff. All right, well, tell me real quick before we hit this top of the hour break. We'll have Clint Lamb. We'll talk some football for sure. But Bediako, man, give me your thoughts real quick. He got denied. Now
he should have denied. You can't go to the pros and then you can't cut it there that you're going to come back because you didn't finish up your eligibility. No, you're done. You make a choice. All right. When you said, "Hey, I'm gonna leave school early and I'm gonna go make this bag," and then you get there and find out, well, I'm not ready, and it didn't work out the way I thought, so I'm gonna go back. No. That's a choice that you made, and it was a bad choice. So therefore, you should not go be able to play anything in the pros, make any kind of money, and then come back to what we call, which we know is not the same, an amateur sport. I don't care who you are. You shouldn't be able to do that. I mean, whether you're in Europe, whether you're wherever. I mean, South Carolina has a young lady that's 18.
Well, I was going to ask you because we agree on that part. I don't think if you come to college, I don't think you should be able to come back. You sign up, or you officially forfeit your eligibility. Like, I'm not trying to be funny, but he's competent. And he understood what he was doing when he left, right? Like he might have got bad advice, but it doesn't matter. He knew what he was doing. It's not like they did it against his will, so we can agree on that. However, when you do have people from overseas, like you mentioned, South Carolina women's basketball, I think it is, right? They have a young lady that played overseas. What are your thoughts on that? Do they need to go ahead and just tighten that up as well and just say, "Hey,
I think they
no pros
at all. Even for Europe, if you decide to play on a professional team, even though it's in another country, you forfeit your college eligibility. Right? I just think that. I think that listen, if it was semi-pros like baseball, these guys, from Japan and other places, they can go play semi-pro, and they decide, hey, we're gonna go and try my thing at baseball. Here's the thing: if they don't make it, they can still go to college, but they can't play.
They can't play baseball. They can play football,
you
right?
can go to college and get your degree, but you're not playing because you done gave all that away. So my thing is, listen, man, these guys need to stop all this. They got to tighten this thing up. I mean, in football, it was always like this. If you declare for the draft, you got a certain deadline. If you declare for the draft, you're done. I don't care if you got 2 years left on the eligibility. I don't care. You can't go and say, well, I didn't get drafted, I'm going back to school. No, you got to make a decision. You're in or you're out. It is what it is. And I think that's the right thing to do. So I know Bediako played 5 games, but you know what? It's over. Go back and try it again. You can go play pros all you want to if they'll take you. If you're good enough, you'll get a chance, but not for Alabama. You're done, my brother. And that's the right decision.
Well, here's a quick paragraph. It's from Kevin Skarbinski. I think he's basically making a point that basically what we were talking about in terms of the biggest difference from the G League players or other pro players is this is a rule that I don't think anybody else had technically broken besides Bediako. It's my first time reading it, so I'm just going to read it for you guys. Second, the defendant acted with adequate justification in enforcing the rules. Oh my gosh, these words. Here we go. Promulgated by its membership. The rules do not permit a student athlete to participate in collegiate basketball, leave for the NBA, and return to the collegiate arena. All the evidence in the record indicates that the defendant has consistently applied this specific rule and that as it relates to the plaintiff, the defendant has applied the rule as written. Further, the plaintiff's counsel freely admitted that the rule preventing an athlete from leaving college, playing professionally, and returning to collegiate athletics has never been accepted by the defendant. The plaintiff failed to point to any evidence that the defendant has inconsistently applied the rule at issue. In other words, for words that we all can understand a lot better than, some of these lawyers out here, shout out to Adam. Basically, the rule of coming to college, going pro, and then coming back, no one's ever done that, and that's the biggest reason why it was denied. So, to me, I think it makes sense. We got to hit this top of the hour break. When we come back, we'll keep on rolling. We got Clint Lamb of Cover Crimson coming up right here on the Miller's Edge. Tide 100.9, 1230, WTBC.
TBC Tuscaloosa.
Well, they ain't gonna like us today, man.
What about Bad Bunny?
First that, and then just saying we feel like the decision makes sense by the NCAA's part. But I've learned, man, I mean, people are gonna find a reason to get mad about anything. I'm just gotta be honest, in my opinion.
I get over it.
It's gotta be honest, in my opinion, man.
Man, go to college and go to pros for 2 years and
I mean, that's it. I mean, that's literally it. It's nothing to do with the pro thing. That's not why he was ruled ineligible.
Just stay to tell in school and learn and grow. They get so greedy that they're gonna go make money. Listen to these outsiders and then
Oh, dude, I got back spasms, man. Not fun. Not fun. Wait, can you hear me, or is
it's like that.
Wait, I think that was on his end. Wait, try leaving and coming back.
Yeah, let me go.
Makes sense. Just wish they expanded it to include going pro in a non-NBA league, then coming back to college afterwards. Well, see, but notice what you said, Gray. You said coming back to college. None of those guys came back to college. I get what you're saying, though, but they're still doing it. Superfly, what's up, man? Hey, I don't know what's going on.
Why don't you reset yours real quick?
I don't think it's mine, but I'll do it. Yeah, it's on your end. Christian, I've been dialoguing with Clint on X about Bama depending on true freshmen, which makes you nervous. Oh, do we have Clint Reed? Is he on the phone lines? All right, perfect.
With 4-time SEC champion and 2-time national champion Christian Miller.
Once again with Christian Miller taking him down.
Here's college football playoff national champion Christian Miller on Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC.
And welcome back into this Talking Tuesday edition of Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 12:30 WTBC. All right. First hour, we talked a lot about Bediako and that whole deal. Now it's time to talk a little football. Maybe we'll ask Clint a little question, too. We got our guy Clint Lamb from Cover Crimson now joining us on the phone lines. Clint, man, how's everything going with you?
It's going fantastic. How you doing today, Christian?
Man, I can't complain, man. I can't complain. Definitely looking forward to talking some football with you. But I do have to ask you, since it's like the biggest talking point right now. Have you seen the latest with Bediako, and any thoughts on that? Any surprises there with the official ruling having being him denied and now he's ineligible again?
No, I'm not surprised by the ruling based off of where things were trending. Once again, I've kind of maintained my belief throughout this process. I don't blame Alabama for taking a swing. I mean, everybody seems to be trying to give themselves a competitive advantage. It made sense. I know everybody wants to make it different, and I understand there are some actual differences. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like everybody nowadays is really pushing the line. And based off of rules and stuff, at one point in time, if you had played a couple of years in JUCO, that meant once you played up to 3 years, depending on if you redshirted or not, you wouldn't be able to come back for a sixth year or a seventh year. And you've got players who are pushing for, years 6, 7, and even in some cases 8 at this point. And they're suing the NCAA and they're figuring out ways to allow themselves to stay on the field. And so, rules are being changed all the time. They're being questioned. I can't blame Alabama. I can't blame Nate Oates. But at the same time, I also wasn't shocked by the ruling based off of where it was trending. And once again, they haven't really officially decided on anything. They just pretty much said that this TRO really can't stand in the NCAA's way of not allowing Charles Bediako to compete. So, I'll be curious to see how it all ends up working out. It's unfortunate. I hate it for him. Was really enjoying getting to see him back on the court for Alabama. But at this point, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's kind of clear, at least even going off of what was said with the whole decision about him being different in the sense that he was in college, left to go pro, then came back. And in that sense, I get it, and I hate to say it, but I do agree, just because I could have seen a world where it started spilling over into other sports, and you got maybe football guys trying to do the same, and then it's a little bit of a mess. But I don't know. It makes me wonder. I mean, do they now turn their attention to some of the Euro guys? Because I don't love that either. And I think maybe it could get cleaned up. Do you think that ends up, I guess, getting some guidelines as well, Clint, or do you think they kind of leave that rule where they still allow some of these European players, or I guess various other pro players from around the world come and play in college athletics?
Yeah, I do think they eventually get something settled on that. Now, I'm not going to sit here and claim to be a legal expert or to sit here and say I've spent just a ridiculous amount of time looking into this stuff. I know basketball is different than football because in basketball you have the Euro stuff, and in football you really don't have that. You don't have guys electing to skip college and go play overseas or something where you have this different set of rules, for those guys. So it's a little bit different. It's not something I've looked into a ton, but I do think based off of this, they are going to have to revisit some things. And I think that's kind of the point, like Bediako and what he's actually suing for. I actually think he's got some grounds. And so I'll be curious to see what that ends up looking like before it's all said and done. A lot of people, because it got Bediako off the court, everybody viewed it as, the court's ruling in the NCAA's favor, and then they did technically with this situation. But this is far from over. It's pretty much over as far as Bediako playing for Alabama, this season or probably moving forward. But as far as his grievance with the NCAA, it's far from over. So I'll be curious to see what that ends up looking like.
Yeah, I think financially he's definitely got himself a case, and it sounded like the judge was not necessarily recommending that, but definitely encouraging him to follow through with that if that does seem of interest to him, which I don't see why I wouldn't, man. Get yourself some money while you can and while you finish up your degree. We're joined by Clint Lamb of Cover Crimson at Cover Crimson on YouTube, on all podcast platforms, as well as X at Clint R. Lamb is his personal. Clint, let's talk some football, man. I've seen you've been doing a lot of a deep dive into this roster and a number of guys, man. And one guy that's caught my interest, I know signing day was, I guess, technically last week now. I don't even feel like it. It didn't even feel like signing day, but there's a guy by the name of Xavier Griffin who is incoming as a linebacker. I thought he was around like 200 or so pounds. I think his mom might have responded to you or maybe a tweet and said, hey, he's already up to 218. And I know you recently did a video talking about him. Give me your thoughts on him and where do you see him fitting in, especially earlier on, because he's somebody that, to me, watching him when he first committed, I think everybody was in agreement. It just immediately was screaming Jahad Campbell, similar measurables, not with the weight, but in terms of, I think, length. I think they're around the same height, but definitely their athletic ability, having that off-ball ability, but also being able to, come off the edge, rush the passer, just do a number of things that you need him to do. I think this guy has a chance to compete really definitely at the off-ball spot early on, since there are some openings, but then also at Wolf, given that he can get after the quarterback. I think his biggest hurdle is going to be the weight, right? He's got to get bigger. If you're going to be playing Wolf, man, you probably, at the minimum, I would say like 230 to comfortably, play that position. For you, Clint, how do you see him fitting in, especially early on, maybe like his freshman year? Where do you see him kind of falling in that?
Well, here's what we know. We know that Marshall Pritchett was a guy who was light coming out of high school, and he ends up getting north of, 245 pounds before his freshman season started. that, a guy like Jackson Lloyd was playing around 280, 285. And by the time he got to Tuscaloosa and kind of got through the off-season program and everything, he was sitting close to 320. We know that, Cavante Henry, he was playing on the JUCO level about 220 pounds, gets to Alabama, gets all the way up to just under 270 pounds. So this coaching staff program, it's proven that it can put substantial mass and weight on guys. Now, granted, when you do it that way and you see that drastic of a change that quickly, I do think there's an acclimation period. I don't really think that you want to do too much. You don't want to add 50 pounds to Xavier Griffin pretty much, in his first season. I don't think that would be the way to go about it. But as you said, I think 225, 230, 235 would be great. But anywhere in that range, I think that would put him in a competitive space as far as whether that be as an edge rusher, whether that be as an off-ball linebacker. And I love the versatility. It is two different positions. If you're playing bandit, but you're also playing three tech, and it's still the same position group. You don't have to go and practice with two different position groups and learn the nuances. But like if you're playing wolf versus, you playing off-ball linebacker, you got to spend time with Christian Robinson. You got to spend time with Chuck Morrell. And so that's going to be difficult. That would be difficult for a freshman. Now, I still think you can play him off the ball and then situationally play him as an edge rusher. But I'm starting to think, just looking at this group, I think it would be advantageous for Alabama. Granted, if they feel like he can come in and actually earn a starting job as an off-ball linebacker, then I'd say let him play that position. And I think he would do just fine there. I think he's got All-American potential at both spots. Still got to see it. He's only a true freshman, but I think the traits are there. But the fact that you're kind of short on numbers at Wolf, you got Yonde Pierre, you got Justin Hill. I love both of those guys. You now have Jamarian Latham, who can provide some Wolf snaps for you if you need him to. I just think that Xavier Griffin, if you kind of envision him as a first-year player, his biggest chance at contributing and really adding an element or a wrinkle to this defense is more using his pass rushing upside, which I think is tremendous. Then maybe you play him exclusively at Wolf, and then on down the line, maybe you pull a Rashawn Evans with him or something of that nature. But I think that would give you three true Wolves if you played him at that position, and then that would allow you some flexibility with Jamarian Latham, where we know he can play Wolf even weighing 278 pounds like he did in 2024. But we also know that him being closer to 280 pounds, he would be able to better hold up as a bandit. He'd be able to better hold up as far as using him situationally on the interior. And so I think that would free him up to kind of get back to what I think would be a more ideal weight for him. And so from a numbers standpoint, that would help you at Wolf. It would help give Xavier the best opportunity, in my opinion, to immediately see the field. And I think it would, I just think it would do a lot for your defense. And I still think that when you look at Caleb Woodson and Caden Jones and QB Reese and Luke Metz, you even got guys like Duke Johnson and Abdul Sanders, I still think you got a lot of quality players who are going to be competing for those two off-ball spots. So I don't know what they'll end up doing with him. I can go ahead and tell you that he does not know either fully. I think he believes that he's probably going to be seeing action or opportunities at both spots throughout the spring. And it probably is just dependent on how his body continues to change and how he kind of acclimates and adjusts to each of those spots as to determine exactly what his role or position will be, especially in year one. But I'll go ahead and tell you, once again, I mean, he's got special traits. And I think right now, Yonde Pierre's an established pass rusher. I think he's going to be one of the better players in college football, especially on that side of the football. But they need some complementary pieces to that. I mean, one thing that we've noticed, if you look at that played in the Super Bowl, if you look at the teams that played in the national championship, you got to have a game wrecker up front defensively, at least one. And if you don't, if you're like in Indiana, where you've got a bunch of really good players, but maybe nobody elite, then you need to be able to not only get good serviceable play out of your defensive line, but you also need to have some guys that can add that fifth body, like a linebacker, like a nickel corner, and get after the quarterback and be able to actually get home pretty consistently. So, Alabama does do some of that. They will add bodies as far as the pass rush, but I really would like to see somebody emerge, at least one guy, maybe, a couple if you can get it, as far as some complementary pieces to Yonde Pierre. And I think Xavier Griffin has an opportunity, at least situationally, to provide one of those pieces.
Yeah, he's intriguing to me because he reminds me of, at least when I was coming in, not necessarily from, I knew I wasn't playing inside when I got here, but, coming in as a guy that definitely had some ability, probably could provide some pass rush presence. But when I got to campus, I was 205 because I had neck surgery. And my senior year in high school, I was about 218. And then I dropped down like 205 when I finally got here. And I would say after my first summer, now he had the luxury of early enrolling, which I didn't. So he's going to have a little bit more time than I did before the season starts for his freshman campaign. But I would say I got back up to close to around 220 or so going into camp. So I think he's right on pace. And you're right. You don't want to put on too much weight too quick. It's definitely a process. But I agree with you. I think I could see him being around 225 his freshman year. And I like that example you gave, like Rashawn, because our freshman year, he spent a lot of time kind of going in on third downs because he offered something that our other edge guys didn't have. I don't know if you remember the group, but in 2014, it was Denzel Duvall, Xavier Griffin, Dylan Lee, Ryan Anderson a little bit. All those guys were like 250 plus. Dylan Lee was probably like 240, but he was more of a Sam. He didn't rush. The other guys were all so heavy. And so I could see Xavier Griffin kind of getting some opportunities to provide some, pass rush, at least early on in his career. Then, like you said, maybe seeing where he fits in during the spring. I definitely think watching his tape, I think he can do both. And the more he fills out, the more he grows and gets more experience, without a doubt, he's going to end up being a really good player on this defense. Let me ask you, speaking of young players, any other young players that if you had to pick, it could be one, it could be 3, 4, however many you feel, but how many young guys do you see from this signing class that could potentially end up being consistent contributors this upcoming season? Because I'll be honest, I think there's a few guys that definitely have a few opportunities, but I'm curious your perspective on that.
Well, I think that you not only have to look at talent, but you got to look at opportunity. You look at a guy like Keelan Russell, and he probably wasn't ready as a true freshman anyways, but when you got a guy like Ty Simpson and you had Austin Mack who had a little bit more time in the system, like he didn't have a clear, easy path to any sort of significant role for Alabama. So it's, there's a couple of things that you always have to look at, but as far as what Alabama's looking for, probably needs on top of talent, I look at a guy like Jamarian Matthews, who I think has some inside-out versatility, but can really help you at Bandit. I think he kind of brings a completeness in a lot of ways as far as he's not any sort of dynamic, twitchy, explosive pass rusher, but I think he's got a good arsenal of moves. I think he plays with a lot of power. He plays with a motor. And so I could see him. I could see a guy like Nolan Wilson helping out, maybe even a guy like Corey Howard, who's a little bit lower rated. I'm not going to anticipate him coming in and immediately assuming some sort of role, but I think he's got an opportunity. Jira Edwards is definitely one defensively. I think he probably ends up rotating at Husky with Red Morgan. I love Red Morgan, but I will say Jira Edwards is kind of the picture perfect Husky as far as just the size, the length, the physicality, the ability to play man and zone coverage. I think he kind of brings all of that, the blitzing ability. And so I could see him ending up earning some sort of role. I could see a Xavier Crowell. He's got a pretty, clear path in a lot of ways to a significant role and maybe even being a starter for Alabama in year one. C.D. Morgan is one just from that size and that length and the ball winning ability. Alabama doesn't have, anybody that's established or fully established as far as being a ball winner. So I think C.D. Morgan can bring some of that. And then as far as some of them true freshmen, once again, don't think any of them just clearly stand out as like this is going to be a guy who comes in and earns an immediate role. But Bryson Cooley, I think from a technical standpoint, he's getting pretty close to being college ready. Jared Doty's got some upside, but he still needs to work on some things. Chris Booker's got a lot of upside. I don't know if he plays guard or tackle, but I like him a lot. And just the fact that there's so much up in the air with the offensive line, I think that's probably going to give some of these young guys an opportunity where pretty much everybody will be given an opportunity. So I could see, maybe one, maybe two, but I think one would probably be the max as far as getting in there and maybe earning some sort of role, whether that be just as a key depth piece or as a starter. So this coaching staff has done a really good job of evaluating talent and getting talent in that can kind of help you immediately. And it's not just necessarily starting caliber guys. It's guys that just at least provide some depth, And so I think that once again, you'll have some different tiers as far as these freshmen, but I think several will be in the conversation for sure.
Absolutely. And on Crowell, because I know a lot of people mention him to us all the time. We know the running game struggled last season. Part of that was the running backs, in my opinion, they had their fair share of accountability. knowing what you know about him from the recruiting process, is watching his tape. I know it's still early. We haven't even seen him in spring ball, but how confident are you that, he could be, I guess, one of the biggest answers for us in that department? Because you look at the backs that we have, we didn't get anybody from the portal. I think he was one of 2 running backs we signed via high school. But, Kevin Riley, he definitely intrigues me. I like Daniel Hill, but I feel like there's still just something missing from those guys. But Crowell, he appears to maybe have that perfect combination of everything you want. He's just really young, and he should be a senior in high school. How confident are you, Clint, that he could end up being the guy at the running back position at a young age, like 17, 18 years old?
Well, the number one thing that helps him, is one of the things that I kind of used against Ryan Williams when he was coming out, and he was a year younger than everybody else, was his frame and his size. And I just worried as far as acclimating to major college football. I had a concern about that. And yet he figured out a way to still get on the field and make a massive impact in year one. But I look at a guy like Xavier Crowell, and I think physically he's already kind of there. Not saying that he didn't have work to do, but I think from a size standpoint, from a strength standpoint, he feels, pretty close to being college ready. I think him getting there early and spending kind of the off season or the summer continuing to get bigger and stronger and then getting into fall camp, I just think that he brings a completeness to his game. I think he brings something from the ability to create, and he can do it in a variety of ways. I just think the vision and the burst and the short area quickness, I think he's got the ability to help you as far as your passing game. Have no idea what he's going to look like from a pass protection standpoint. He wasn't obviously asked to do it a ton in high school. Normally guys who are that talented, they're not asked to do it a ton. But, even if he can't do that, I just think what he brings from the other elements, that he's going to probably be too good of a player to keep off the field. And as you mentioned, I like Daniel Hill. I like Kevin Riley. But I think probably your 2 best bets as far as, kind of being that, bringing that extra to the position group, I think it's Xavier Crowell, and I think it's A.K. Deer. So it's just a matter of how quickly do they get those guys up to speed and ready to go. I'll be curious to see what that ends up looking like. But one thing that we know is that Alabama has to get more production out of their run game. And while I would fully expect Daniel Hill, with better blocking and stuff, to be a more effective player, I would expect Kevin Riley, bigger, stronger, would expect a little bit more out of him. I just think that as far as getting that running game a lot closer to where it needs to be, a guy like Xavier Crowell, he'll have every opportunity to earn massive snaps in year one. And I think that if he can pick up the offense and in any sort of way be trusted, I think he'll end up being, if not Alabama's starter, one of their probably top 2 guys before it's all said and done.
We're joined by Clint Lamb of Cover Crimson, again, at Cover Crimson on YouTube, all podcast platforms, on X as well, and at Clint R. Lamb is his personal on X. I got my dad on here. I was going to say, you want to ask Clint a question real quick?
Well, Clint, good to speak with you again. Very eloquently said all the things that you were talking about. But, here's where college football has gotten to, though. When you got to talk about freshmen and how can they be available right now. And that has pretty much gone away because you might get 1 or 2 guys that might come in and help you. Maybe on one hand, you're going to be able to count them. Most of the guys that's going to be available and ready to play is the transfer portal. Now, Shane Beamer here in Columbia always talks about high school recruiting is still his number 1 priority, and winning the state is still his number 1 priority. I say that, Clint, only to ask, do you think for Alabama, Kalen DeBoer, his program, is high school and winning the state of Alabama their number 1 priority, or is it transfer portal guys that you can plug and play that's ready to go? You don't have to worry about development. You don't have to worry about strength training. They're ready to play. They play meaningful snaps. What's the mindset of this program right now? Because when you look at Indiana, you look at Miami, you look at Ohio State last year, those teams that have been in the playoffs consistently the last couple of years and won national championships have been the teams that have used transfer portal to make things happen. Where do you say Alabama is right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I still think it's early in this entire process to be able to fully understand exactly what all it's going to take. Like, a lot of people point to the experience and the age of Indiana's roster, and everybody keeps saying, well, you got to have a squad full of 5th and 6th year players if you want to be competitive or win a national title. And I think it's too premature to say that definitively. I do think it helps. Don't get me wrong. If you can get impactful players and you can get age and experience and maturity, I don't think that's ever going to hurt you. But I will say that I do think that there's still an emphasis on the high school recruiting and on the development side of things. And there's their approach is we're going to get in the elite talent. We're going to try to get that talent involved the best that we can. And then we're going to make sure that the ones who earn it are taken care of financially. And that's kind of exactly what they did. I mean, you look at Dejon Lee, he was one of your 5-star recruits. He became a starter, I think started 5 games and played over or just under, I think, 600 snaps. Michael Carroll was a 5-star who came in, started a handful of games for you. Lotzier Brooks ended up having a massive role. Caleb Edwards started, I think, 6 games. London Simmons helped out your defensive line. But then even that next wave, the Justin Hills, he had a significant role. Marshall Pritchett got some meaningful action. Derek Meadows did. Jackson Floyd, A.K. Beer. And so when you really start looking at all the top, if you look at probably their top, 12 or 13 signees from this past class, a lot of them ended up seeing some sort of meaningful role. Maybe it wasn't significant, but they were getting them some sort of action, and then they retained pretty much all of those guys. They didn't lose anybody. And so I think that's kind of the goal. Now, that's going to keep you youthful quite a bit. I mean, if you're putting all your emphasis or a huge portion of your roster towards not only roster retention, but then also getting in some of these young guys, I mean, that's going to create some issues, or maybe you're lacking at some positions as far as the maturity and stuff, and that could end up hurting them. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I know for a fact it won't be a problem, but I just think that that's still, they feel like they can win these high school battles a lot more consistently as far as getting the elite of the elite, more so than in the transfer portal. And so I think right now it's all about evaluation, even finding some of those diamonds in the rough, the London Simmons of the world, the Lottie Brooks, who wasn't as highly rated, but also when you've got some guys who you feel like can come in and contribute to your football team right away, the 5-star players, you make them an emphasis, and then it's kind of filling in the gaps as far as what do you need based off of roster retention and high school recruiting as far as the transfer portal. And, once again, it remains to be seen how that ends up working out, but I at least see the vision, and I can see where it could be successful, because I don't think they're as worried about losing the key players that they recruit and get on campus, but they're going to have to make sure they do that pretty much year in and year out to stay competitive.
Yeah. You see, let me say this real quick. Now I'll be done. I just think that if you're a team like Alabama, right, Ohio State, that could be the case. I think you still can really pay a lot of attention to high school recruiting and continue to build your roster from that. The meat and potatoes should be from that, because you're talking about depth, you're talking about longevity throughout the years, right, of their tenure in college. And then you have to, as Nick Saban always would say, plug and play. Go find a left tackle when you need one, right? You're going to be youthful. Go find a rush in. Go find a quarterback even when you know that, hey, I can't wait to this young guy to see if he's going to be the guy or not. That's Alabama has that chance to be that. South Carolina, on the other hand, like Indiana, they're going to go get 35, 40 guys. I mean, they got to take all of their money if they're going to win now, right? They got to go do that. So I think it depends on really who you are. And we saw it with Ohio State. They got some guys, key guys, and they hit it right. Indiana had a lot of guys. They hit it right with a very good system in place. And, yeah, it's not just the age, but as I always say, I take experience over talent, young talent especially, because when you get into those meat and potato games, championship games, college football playoffs, it's the elder guys that normally are able to make that next step. And that's why I think Alabama has fell a little bit short. And I think he has to pay a little bit more attention on those plug and play guys that has played meaningful snaps. If they're going to get back to the state of prominence that they used to be.
That's what I was going to add real quick. And I was like, I agree with everything Clint's saying. I like the approach of recruiting really strongly, like we have done. And Clint gave great examples of a lot of young players that are prominent pieces that we've retained. Again, you've retained nearly everybody that they've brought in over the last couple of years. And you've seen some really good players that you can build around. But I will say, I do agree with my dad that the one area that I do have a little concern is that I just feel like if we would have been able to attack the portal process and get a little bit more secure pieces there and not so much developmental pieces, like he just mentioned, like Ohio State, they recruit really well, but they also go in on the portal and try to find guys that they know can come in and make a difference. That's the one thing that does give me a little concern. And again, it's like you said, Clinton, it's a wait and see kind of deal. It could work out just fine, but I think when you are Alabama and you expect to be in those big moments, those big games, you want to give yourself every chance you can get. And I just feel like we might have been a little too conservative this past portal cycle, but again, we'll have an answer later on. It's still early to say that, but that's just kind of how it felt initially once it concluded. But did you have anything you wanted? I don't know, Clint.
Well, and I completely agree with that. I think that is so important. I guess I'm working with limited information. I don't know what the limitations are as far as the NIL and stuff. I know that places like South Carolina or LSU right now, it's been since 2019 since they won a national championship, and they've only won. Other than that, it had been a while since they had won one. And anytime you hire a big name coach like Lane Kiffin, what comes with that is this promise of, support from an NIL perspective. And that never is really going to last. But, especially in these early stages, like they're going to have the opportunities to swing for the fences. I look at the coaching staff and I try to get in their minds and try to understand where they're coming from. And part of it could be them being conservative. I fully acknowledge that possibility. But I also think it's possible, like, we know that they really wanted Ja'Carius Peak, but they knew they weren't going to come in with a competitive offer relative to some of these others that are completely swinging for the fences. And is it not that they don't have the money compared to a South Carolina? I don't necessarily think that's it, but I think from what they were having to spend to retain all of their own guys and the number of players they were having to retain, South Carolina did have to retain some key pieces. Do not get me wrong. Dylan Stewart did not come cheap. Obviously, quarterback doesn't come cheap, but I just think that the number of players that Alabama really put an emphasis on retaining, that mattered to them. And then also you got to look at, keeping the guys on your roster happy. The situation that happened with Ole Miss as far as figuring out that some of the guys who are coming in, they're getting paid a much larger amount of money compared to the guys who are already on the roster. Like that can cause some friction and some problems. I think they're trying to balance that, and they don't want to create any sort of rifts. And then also, in their minds, do they say, okay, what's easier? Is retaining a Michael Carroll easier, or is going out and trying to get a Ja'Carius Peak on campus and signing him to a premium? Is that easier? And so I think their idea is, let's try to go get all the Ja'Carius Peaks we can from the high school ranks. We recruit well, we evaluate well, and then we make sure we take care of those guys and we keep those elite players. That's going to take great evaluation. And if you end up missing on a class, I think later in the Saban years, they ended up missing on some classes or at least some key players. And I think that really slowed things down as far as the production and the effectiveness on the field. If you end up having one of those classes nowadays, that can really be detrimental. But yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I definitely can't definitively dispute it. I just think right now it's still really early in this process. And if I don't know what kind of limitations they feel like they're working with or roster dynamics as far as keeping guys in the locker room happy. It's just, there's a lot that goes into it. But I would love in the future, if you end up feeling like you're only one or two pieces away, if you swing for the fences, I'm all for it. Just understand that once you enter that realm, everybody's going to want to be the exception.
No, that's a fair point. And that's why it'd be nice if you had official logistics to really give yourself something to, really go off of and know, because you got a point. If you're investing so much in high school recruiting and retaining your players, one could imagine you're going to probably have less to work with than said school that has a little bit less allocated there, and they're putting more attention on the transfer portal itself. So that's also something to consider. But yeah, no, I think it all makes sense. And like we both were saying, I think early right now to really get a definitive, but we'll know more through the spring, fall camp, and definitely the season once that comes. Clint, man, I appreciate you hanging out. I know we kept you for a little while, but always good to catch up with you and have you join us on a Talking Tuesday. As always, please plug your stuff and let everybody know where they can keep up with all the good work that you're doing.
Yeah, man, always good talking to you. Always enjoy it for sure. You can find me on Twitter at Clint R. Lamb. You can find me on YouTube. Search Cover Crimson. We do a daily show over there. And then if you listen to podcasts, make sure to search on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen, the Cover Crimson Podcast Network. We've got some things going on over there as well. So once again, Christian, I appreciate you bringing me on, and I look forward to next week.
Absolutely, brother. Always a pleasure, Clint. We appreciate you, man.
Yep, good talking to you, man.
Yes, sir. Likewise. Good deal. Our guy, Clint Lamb of Cover Crimson, who joins us every Tuesday at the top of the hour. Big thanks to him for always being gracious with his time, coming and chopping it up, talking some football, a little bit of basketball today. Talked about the Bediako case. But now we got to hit a timeout. We come back. We keep on rolling right here on the Miller's Edge. Top 100.9, 1230, WTBC. Smitty says Ohio State and Michigan's last natty teams were mostly their high school recruits who stayed. Most of Indiana's transfer were guys who followed Signetti. FSU lives in the portal, but they stink. Yeah, and that's why I said, now let's be clear, Smitty. All right, I mean, make sure you understand what I'm saying. I am for the recruit good players. That's why I said that's my preferred approach. Recruit good players, retain said good players. What I said was I felt that we were a little more conservative on the holes that we had to cover versus some of those other schools that you might mention. That's what I'm saying. For example, in my opinion, we have some really good young players. This is the best way I can explain it. We have some really good young players that you can build around. I felt that what I know is that there is a couple guys that we let walk that initially I think they thought they were good with letting walk. And then they realized probably wasn't ideal, right, with hindsight. But at that point, it was a little late. That said, that's not even my biggest thing. My biggest thing is knowing that we had a lot of holes, especially at a very key, not just position, but offensive line, trench play. Knowing, right, this is my thing. We can't sit here and talk about, how detrimental the offensive line play is and how, man, if Alabama could just get that, they'd be so much better. And then also sit there and say, all right, but we think getting young developmental players up front that aren't proven or anything is super, I guess, gives you a bunch of confidence. That contradicts, right? And that's my approach. My thing is, if I'm viewing Alabama, just like everybody else or anybody else that you listen to that's credible, they'll say the same thing. Alabama's trench play has not been what it was, and it needs to be better. We all can agree on that. So in my opinion, it should be very easy to say we should go all out or do whatever we can possible to get the best players available, especially knowing that we also have a young quarterback, right? Whoever ends up winning the job, they will be a first-year starter. That's all I'm saying. So when I look at some of the names we got from the portal, a lot of people are going off of, we got the number 2 defensive tackle I don't go off of those rankings, but I also go off of there were not a whole bunch, but there were some guys with some experience, starting experience, some quality players that played a number of snaps, especially up front, offensive linemen. Not saying they were perfect prospects, but my thing is knowing that we're Alabama, we already have a lot of good pieces. I think that could have been ideal, right? That's all I'm saying. Not saying their approach, like Clint said, we don't know. I mean, their approach could definitely work out. I mean, I like Clem a lot. I told you guys. I don't know him personally, but I from what I know about him, I think he's going to be I'll say it like this. I think there's a great chance that he's a very good addition. And I think, especially from the developmental standpoint, like I'm all for that. I think that will work out well. I can't say it will. I'm not saying it fixes all the problems, but from what I know about him as a coach, I think is a good chance that he improves even from a fundamental standpoint. I think the players will be improved. That said, imagine pairing him up with some other guys a little bit more proven, some guys with some experience. The outlook on this team is totally different. If Alabama has an offensive line that feels a little bit more proven, you feel more confident with, the outlook is totally different. That's all we're saying. Or all I'm saying, at least. And I think that's what he was also saying. And welcome back into this Talking Tuesday. This is the Miller's Edge, Top 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Big shout out to Clint Lamb, who joins us every Tuesday at the top of the hour. Again, you can keep up with all their stuff at Cover Crimson, anywhere you get your podcast, any podcast platform at Cover Crimson. Also, their YouTube channel, same thing, and on X. They do a really good job, man, in terms of deliberate breakdowns and diving into players and anything Alabama you can think about, man. So we always enjoy getting Clint here on the show. I was going to ask him one more question, but I know we kept it. We had him for like 30 minutes. I know like you said, I think they're doing daily shows now, so I didn't want to keep him too long. But this came up, I think, yesterday, and let me see if I can find the clip. It kind of goes back to something that we talked about. I'm sure my dad will probably have a thought on here as well, but Kalen DeBoer. Now, if you guys remember, I think it was probably a couple months ago now, but he had been in I guess the conversation came up that he was looking at getting an extension, right? Remember, he was being pursued, at least allegedly being pursued, or he was being pursued. I don't know if there's any talks, but Penn State was the first one, right? The first school that he was linked to. I think that's when the conversation initially started. And then the Michigan job came up. I can't remember which one exactly, but the talk was that he was probably next up for an extension. And I forgot about that whole conversation. It kind of died down. The season went how it went. It's been busy since. As soon as the season ended, we went straight into the transfer portal, all that good stuff. But I think it was the next round. I saw a clip yesterday where it was discussed that, is that still in play? And I'm just curious what you guys think on that. Do you guys think he is? And I don't want to use the word deserving because I feel like that's that's an interesting word to use. But do you guys think that's a possibility? I'll ask my dad because I don't know. I don't know if it was an old clip or what. I think it was like on Facebook. I randomly saw it, but it was basically old. Like
that's old.
Was it old?
Yeah,
I think it was posted yesterday.
That's old.
Maybe it was old. I don't know. I think it was posted yesterday though.
But you got the best college you got the best job in America. I mean, even if he left Alabama, that tells me then all the things he said about the challenge and accepting the challenge to come in after the greatest college football coach of all time and Nick Saban, and then you run somewhere else after 2 years, then that tells me you quit. That you said I can't do it. I'm waving the white flag of surrender. So. Nah.
Well, here, let me play this clip real quick because it's not old. The date is on here. The date says the 9th. So this was yesterday. And I don't know if there was any.
Maybe they're just insinuating that.
Maybe. Oh, here I'll play the first part so you guys can hear it. Then I'll let you and everybody respond.
Some point. Now, I don't have any facts to back this up. I believe at some point we will get an announcement on a Kalen DeBoer extension. Do you think that's already been done?
So
or
you think he leveraged the Penn State opening and the
Michigan opening? He did.
Or is Jimmy Sexton?
Sexton did. I mean, he had Alabama in the playoffs. They won a playoff game.
Yep.
He deserves an extension.
Oh, look, it was, I want to say much better. It was definitely better in year 2.
Yeah.
Deserves an extension. Let's
I don't know about that.
I'd like to hear more on that. Sell me on that one.
I mean, based on the fact that everybody else gets one, yeah. But I think we give extensions. It's too easy to get an extension.
I'll be Greg Byrne, you be Jimmy Sexton, and you've just told me my guy deserves an extension.
I'm not going to role play with you here, but I will say this.
I kind of wanted you to role play.
That when Brent Brennan gets an extension at Arizona for 9 wins through 2030, it doesn't say he got a raise.
That's true.
It said he got an extension. Okay, so Kalen DeBoer's salary may not change. You just stack 2 years back to the existing contract, or maybe he gets a little bit more money.
But the way these things are structured, that also increases the buyout again.
It does.
The buyout has been whittled down some, and now you've increased it again.
I'll ask you, did you want, if you're an Alabama fan, would you have been happy if Kalen DeBoer had taken that Michigan job after that Oklahoma win?
It's a complicated question. After the Oklahoma win, no. But I think, when the Penn State stuff came up and then when the Michigan stuff came up, there were some Alabama fans that were like, this hasn't been what I thought it would be. But then I think on the other hand, you're like, well, the one thing I don't want to do is get back in the carousel again.
Oh, I think it was probably 50-50 if you could tell me who Alabama was going to get.
But that was the problem. Yeah. I think 50-50, but the 50 that were off DeBoer were like, a lot of them were like, I may be off DeBoer, but I don't want back on the carousel. Because you don't know what you're going to get on the other side.
But nobody was off DeBoer when the Penn State thing opened up because that was all in the middle of beating 4 ranked teams in a row.
That's right.
And this thing is rolling. We're number 4 in the country.
That came out the week of Alabama, Tennessee. So that was a long, long time ago.
I will make the point with Greg Byrne in Alabama, and this is easy to forget. He was accomplished, and the fans were not down on him at all. But the Nate Oates extension came right after they got drilled by Florida in the Southeastern Conference basketball tournament and were limping into the NCAA basketball tournament. And then they made the Final Four run, and Greg Byrne looked like a genius. Now, then Kentucky came open, and Byrne had to reopen, some negotiation.
But still, the approval rating with Nate Oates is 100%.
It was different. I'm just saying.
I would even say this, and I don't know if you agree. If you go back in season, back before Lane Kiffin completely barbecued his
relationship with Ole Miss.
His departure from Ole Miss, I think more than half of Alabama fans, or at least 50-50, would have said, hey, we'll give you DeBoer for Lane Kiffin.
I'll stop it there because that was an interesting take there. And again, you got to put yourself back in these moments, because if you go back after around the Penn State time, like you said, that was when we were thinking that stretch, 4 straight ranked wins. That was the first time it was done, all that good stuff. And then the next time around, when the Michigan job was available, I think that was right before the playoffs, right before we played Oklahoma, or maybe I can't remember, maybe right after. I think it was right before we played. The conversation started, because I want to say he opened a press conference and kind of had to answer and respond to that. But let me ask you this: let's just back all the way up to the initial point. Now, it depends on how you word it, right? I want to be careful, because if you word it like deserving of a raise or expect to get a raise, I think those are two completely different conversations. In my opinion, let me ask you first. Let me word it like this. Do you feel like there's a good chance we see Coach DeBoer get an extension soon? Because that was the main question originally asked.
No.
You don't?
He's not deserving. Okay? That's number one. I mean, to say whoever that clown is on the –
okay, easy.
Okay, but he's not deserving. I mean, deserving of what? I know he went to the SEC championship. I know he went to the playoffs. Okay, but you got smoked. You got embarrassed. And so my point is this, man. You're still Alabama, and there is a mystique that goes along with being Alabama, with the script A. You can't just making it to Atlanta and losing and getting dominated in the trenches, or just getting to the playoffs, limping your way into the playoffs, and then you get embarrassed by a school that haven't been relevant in God over half a century till last year. No, you're not deserving. Why would you get an extension? For what? Because another team showed interest. Let them have him. Because Alabama going to always.
I mean, what did he do to you? Golly, man.
No, but I'm just being honest. I'm being as my trustee said in our meeting. Sometimes you have to allow Frank to show up, meaning be frank, and I'm being frank right now. The frankness of this conversation is he don't deserve it, right? You had last year, it was a little bit better, but in going into your third, you don't deserve it. This is Alabama. The expectation is so far higher than just making it to Atlanta or just limping into the playoffs. And then not to count you lose to unranked team. So there's a lot there. So if you lose them, then so be it. Lane Kiffin would have been the best. I've been telling you that. But now he's at LSU. Now you got to deal with him. Really got to deal with him. So my point is this. Kalen is a fine head football coach. But right now, at this pace, he's not going to last his entire contract. So if you extend him, like the one guy said, you know that your buyout going to go up. You want that buyout to go down, especially based on what we've seen, the receipts that he has put in front of us, the 2 years. I'm not giving up. Why am I going to increase my buyout for him? No, I don't care. Let somebody else come and get him.
Okay. So let me just say this. Number one, if you use the word deserving, I think it's too soon to say that. That's how I would put it. I can't say
exactly. It's not deserving.
At this point in time, I would say ready to extend, because I do agree with is it Lance that said it? I can't remember. But the point is, nowadays everybody gets extensions just because half the time is based off of a job opening. It's not even so much based off of what you have done. A lot of times you see coaches, that naturally happens. These agents work it, and it's that's Jimmy Sexton's job. So I will say that. That said, in terms of the buyout, that's my biggest thing. I enjoy Coach DeBoer. I think he's a great football coach. There's definitely some things that I do want to some questions that I want to see answered especially this season and over the course of the next year and some change. 100,000%. We can agree on that. You mentioned some of those performances. That's my thing. And you guys know me that listen to this show. I've always said that. I don't give a damn about losing a game or two or even 3 here and there. I understand how this thing works, man. I'm not one of these people that people think just because I played for Coach Saban, I expect us to be undefeated every year. I'm the one telling you guys that's not realistic. I'm okay with that. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is when we lose in the fashion in which we've lost. Those are some of those answers that I want to have. Can he find a way to get his teams to respond better and play how they can play on a consistent basis? We've seen them do some great stuff, going on the road to beat Georgia, going on a 4-game streak and beating those teams, even though they might not have been pretty. That's a tough stretch. He's shown he can do some really good stuff, but it has to be consistent, and you got to find a way to get rid of the blemishes of those really bad losses. I think that's very fair to say. But in terms of the extension part and the buyout, that's where I think it gets tricky, because on one end, you do have to consider, all right, we have a great coach. He's recruiting really well. They're able to retain a lot of good football players. What I'm getting at is the system in itself, where it's at. You don't want to risk having to start over. I know it's easy to say, oh, well, if he does want to walk, like I'm with you. I don't want to sit there and make it seem like as the University of Alabama, we're begging somebody to be here. To hell with that. It's a privilege to coach here at the University of Alabama, and to be able to take the reins of all the stuff that my former head coach and all of us former players helped build, right? That is a privilege. So if someone wants to walk away from it, so be it. Go ahead. I'm with you. But you do have to think about who would come in after that. Like you mentioned, I mean, I would have been fine with Lane. I'll be honest. I'm still kind of one of those people that in my head, I'm like, it would have been a little, I don't know, felt a little bit more comfortable knowing it was somebody that was a part of Coach Saban's tree. I'm just being completely honest. Again, I love Coach DeBoer. I think he's a good coach, but that's just me being completely straight up. Because, I mean, you see that with almost anytime there's like a coach with the stature of Coach Saban that's done the things that they've done, almost always they're followed up by, a former assistant or somebody from the tree. I would have loved that. It didn't happen. Oh, well, it is what it is, right? I'm not going to be like people that cry about a Super Bowl performance. It is what it is. Life keeps going. But I will say that right now, you look out there, I don't know who you'd even do that. So that would be concerning if that came up. But in terms of the extension itself, I don't understand. I mean, you got a 7-year contract. I wish we didn't have to worry about the stuff like that. We shouldn't be worried about extension. We should be worried about, hey, you signed up for 7 years. Let's just let it play out. But I know there's more, I guess, aspects to this whole thing. But the buyout, the biggest thing is it's so lopsided because the buyout for us to move on from him is really high. I think it's like in the $60 million range. That's a lot of money. The buyout for another team to hire him off of us is actually really low, which is kind of interesting. I don't know exactly why that is or why that was done that way, but it is what it is. So in that case, I do think you have to be careful with these extensions, because what happens is, in my opinion, some people, they get overly eager and they start kind of, getting worried that, hey, we don't want to lose this guy. So they find themselves in a position where they do a contract extension. They get this messy buyout, and then you're in a bind. So that is one thing I do think is important to consider when it comes to doing extensions. But I don't know. I just saw that clip yesterday, and it was interesting. I wish we had more time to talk about it on the radio side of things, but we do have to get out of here a little early. We combine breaks, but we'll talk a little bit more about it maybe tomorrow right here.
Don't worry about it. He ain't going nowhere. Only way he's going anywhere unless they're going to be telling him, hey, here's your suitcase.
Well, I mean, I would.
As far as him leaving, he's not leaving. If he don't get it done.
I could see a world where maybe after year 3 or after year 4, probably I would say it's not really, say he's doing well, but something comes up where maybe it just seems like maybe it's time for new scenery or something. I could see a world. I know initially we thought maybe he would be an NFL guy.
In 4 years, he could be. I don't know. He could be. Let's say like 35 and 12 or 35 and 15, which is a good record.
It's really good.
But at Alabama, that gets you fired.
Which is crazy to think about, just how the expectations here are so different. Real quick before we get out of here, while I'm looking at him smoke a cigar, don't forget about our friends over at R&R Cigars. Make sure you guys check them out. rnrcigars.com. Use that code Miller's Edge. You get yourself 20% off. And if you're looking for a place to watch any sport and event, especially these basketball games, you got one coming up on tomorrow, actually, against Ole Miss, I believe. Check it out at R&R Cigars, 2703 Gary Fitz Street, the best humidor in the Southeast. Over 160 bourbons for you to try right there at R&R Cigars. You can't miss it right there on the corner, downtown Tuscaloosa. Again, that is R&R Cigars, the official cigar provider of Alabama football and the Pastor Payne since 2014. We got to get out of here, but we look forward to doing it with you again tomorrow right here on the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230, WTBC.
You've been listening to the Miller's Edge, tackling sports daily.
Appreciate it, Reed. Appreciate it, Chase. That worked perfect, man. Sorry, let me catch up on some of these chats real quick.
We're good, Rex.
Lane gets props and respect for how he has won at Ole Miss. Of all places, when you have won 4, 10 or more win seasons at Ole Miss, that is impressive. Yeah, man. Lane, people I think they sell Lane short, man. I mean, the consistency that he had at Ole Miss was impressive. And I think they also forget that he also is a national championship winning offensive coordinator here at Alabama. That still counts on his resume. You know, I know it wasn't as a head coach, and I know people could say, oh, well, they had that defense, but don't forget what his offenses were doing here as well. So, I mean, Lane, I'll be honest, Lane normally finds himself getting some disrespect, or I guess lack of credit maybe would be better used here. But the problem with Lane, in my opinion, with the University of Alabama is I just think the off-field theatrics just don't really line up with our values, right? Or at least we're supposed to be, right? Alabama, you always talk about classy and this and that. Some of the stuff I've seen recently, I'm kind of like, dang, man, what are we doing? For example, I mean, the amount of people just literally say, hey, Jalen Milroe is a Super Bowl champion, which he is. As a third-string quarterback, he's a Super Bowl champion. The amount of fans that I see, I told you guys, just like when I made that comment, I had people like, what are you talking about? I haven't seen anything. I'm like, I literally, I'm not the only person seeing this stuff, man. But yeah, I don't know, man. I never really saw the side of our fans until it felt like the past couple of years, and it's so unfortunate. It's honestly so lame, and it makes you just feel embarrassed to be a former player and to see some of our fans act like that. I mean, the guy did nothing to these people. Had a couple games where he struggled. That's all he did, and these people will not let it go. Like, you're mad because you can now say another former Alabama player, Alabama quarterback won a Super Bowl. I will never understand, man. But it's kind of the state of the world we live in, man. People aren't happy with themselves, so they have to take it out on other people. Unfortunate, but it is what it is. Let's see. Old Bama teams didn't roll over and die, fought to the end, put the pedal to the metal. I will say, people always want to bring up my last game ever. I didn't get to play in it because I tore my hamstring, but against Clemson. No denying it, man. We got our ass whooped by Clemson in that national championship game. But I think the difference is when people try to bring up that game, that's one game. We went undefeated the whole season, whooped everybody's ass that year. Maybe there was a couple close games here, there, but you're talking about running the matter of fact. So in 2 years, because the year before that, we lost one regular season game to Auburn, played a bad game on the road at Auburn, lost, won the rest of it, right? Then went undefeated the following year until we got our ass whooped, one game at the end. So when people try to bring that up and it's like, oh, well, that never happened. Nobody said it never happened, but you're lying through your teeth if you try to compare, because you got to look Florida State, Georgia, and then Indiana. That's 3 times in 1 year. Then the year prior you had Vanderbilt. I mean, you didn't expect to lose to Vanderbilt, but they're a better team. So I'm one of the people that I think a little bit more rationally when it comes to that, but still not a good loss at all, even though they're better. And then Oklahoma that year. And what was the other one? Michigan. Why am I drawing? What was the other loss that was bad from the year before? Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, Michigan. Maybe it wasn't, but still, you get my point, though. So in 2 years, you got 5 of those types of losses. And then with us, 17 through 18, you had 1. At Tennessee, yeah. Wait, how did Damian Harris come up with this, huh? And I saw somebody actually. I want to be look. I appreciate you guys for realizing I try to be conscious and respectful of my delivery with stuff. So I don't want to, but I will just say this though, since you brought them up. Listen, when you're in media, there's you definitely want to be credible. You definitely want to be factual, but you also want to have an entertainment piece. I get it. He definitely sounds a little. It's a little distasteful, kind of how he approaches it sometimes. But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, a lot of what he's saying is he's not. I'm not saying he's right with everything, but there is a lot of truth in what he says. It just the way he does it is a little distasteful. I understand that part, but I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, people calling them idiots and stuff. I mean, I'm just is it what it is, man. I just wish people would just be like, "Yep, that's just Damian." Because if you guys knew him like I knew him, the dude does not hate the university. The dude does not hate these people. He's just passionate about the program. And then when you see some of the things that we see from our perspective, I mean, it just kind of bothers you. I just guess I do a little bit better job of kind of controlling my emotions and not letting it transmit here on the show. And always I'm going to try to find a way to make things as positive as I can. But at the same time, I'd be lying if I said I didn't watch some of our performance. And if I told you guys what was on my mind while I'm watching it, I mean, I'd probably sound like him too. I don't even know where he came up, but this ain't old Bama. We gonna roll now. Yeah, and I'm not one of these people that's trying to compare it either, to be clear. I've never said that. I've always said these guys need to find their own lane. I was the one that was saying before Greg even said it, I was the one saying, I'm tired of hearing the whole Bama standard thing. They need to start their own deal. I said that months ago because it's true. It's not, but that's the thing. I think people mix it up. It's not about comparing. Yes, there's people that compare them to old Bama and this, and I understand that. That's inevitable. It's inevitable. I know people don't like it, but it's inevitable. That's what happens when you have a brand new era following that. It's going to happen with any sport, any team. Just get used to it, right? Coach DeBoer knew what he was signing up for. These players know what they're signing up for. That's part of it. It's always going to happen. However, I think their best thing would be like stop with the talking about that. Stop with that. Just what they need to focus on is just being the best versions of themselves and going out there and playing competitive games.
Not losing the team and like getting embarrassed the way, especially physically. I mean, that's the problem when you got former players like, Denzel to who was it we just listened to last week? On there with the former linebacker. I'm drawing a blank. But my point is, when you talk about players quitting and not being physical, that's taking on the personality of the coach, and that should be called out. And that's, to me, that falls strictly on the coach. And if you got guys that don't want to play hard, get rid of them. Find somebody that wants to play. So, you know what I mean? We can sit there and there's people, that's always going. Well, I've been doing this talk radio, I don't know, 25 years since I've finished playing ball. I did in New York, one of the hardest places to do media. And maybe that's where a lot of my frankness comes from because, when you learn, you have to be a certain way and be real about it. But it's like, I pull for Alabama except for one time. If they play in South Carolina, I don't pull for them. Other than that, I pull for Alabama. Always. And I probably pull for Alabama sometimes more than my even school. Some people here in Columbia tell you that. But at the same time, I'm not going to be afraid to say what I see, ever. I don't care what some person on a chat that I'm never going to see in my life. He ain't going to control my thoughts, and it's just never going to happen. And he has a right or she has a right to opinion. I respect that. But I know what I see and I know what I watch. and I know about this game, and I'm gonna stand right there. Stand right there.
Yep. Here's one for you, Christian Solomon. Golly, man, these names. Tuliapupu. Is that his last name? Tuliapupu? Solomon Tuliapupu, former 2018 signee, 9th year of eligibility. What was his deal? Was it injuries? I mean, what I would say to that, Crystal, though, is, again, Bediako's deal wasn't about G League or age specifically. The biggest issue was he went to college, declared for the draft, and came back, you know? So that's the biggest difference that people have to understand. I mean, it's not targeting Bama, it's not targeting Bediako. It's he came to school here, he left, and then he went back. He's the only one to do that. Missed 5 seasons due to injuries. You know, and I'm all for giving guys grievance for injuries, but when we get to that, at that point, I'm sorry, brother. I mean, it's time to move on. I mean, 5 years of injuries. I mean, you have more years being injured than actually playing. I mean, I'm not one to talk. I dealt with my fair share of injuries, but damn, I ain't missed that much time. Yeah, maybe he would make a good wrestler, man. They got a large population of
True.
Polynesians. Bad deal for Bediako. Yeah, it's just a little different than the Euros, but I still think, I mean, they need to address the Euro deal too, though. I mean, that should be addressed as well. Let's see. Yeah, listen, guys. G-Bam said he shouldn't be playing. I'm sorry. Hey, listen, we're a safe space. You ain't got to apologize for opinions or takes on here. That's what makes us good. We like when people have different opinions. It creates a debate, as long as it's like informed. if it's just spewing some stuff out that's, you know, unproductive, that's a little bit different. But yeah, 9th year, that's crazy. I don't even know what you start studying at that point. I don't know. Let's see. I think that's about it. I don't have anything else. All I see right now on X is all this not Nancy play. What is it called? Is it Guthrie? Well, what's it? The Savannah Guthrie? Yeah, it's all over social media right now. I guess they released video doorbell footage of the suspect. That whole thing is that's crazy. It's crazy. Only thing we were going to hit was Alabama more than likely canceling the home and home with Ohio State, which I think that was expected for some time now, but kind of picked some traction up again. But anyway, well, all right. Well, I'll let you get to. I think we working on the sermon.
No, I'll just work my calendar, make sure I don't forget a couple things. I got a lot to do this weekend. I'm in Columbia all week, working on my golf event.
Oops. Nice. If anybody's in the Carolinas, if you guys want to play in this golf tournament, it's coming up in what, a month? 2 months?
No, it's May 18th.
Oh, okay. You got a few months. Giants for Christ golf tournament. I can't speak today. I need to go get some lunch, man. Need to get some lunch in my system. We'll close shop for today. Appreciate all you guys hanging out with us. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. You guys know the drill. If you haven't, hit that like button on the way out, and we'll look forward to doing it again tomorrow. I don't think anybody's lined up for tomorrow, but let me try to get some. I'm gonna reach out to Milrose's dad, see if he'll
get Bad Bunny on.
Yeah, good luck with that, dude. Dude's like the Latino Drake. That ain't happening.
Well, I didn't know. I got my buddy Rex had to get my MacBook I never risked brand new, and I used it a few times, but I forgot the passcode. But he got my computer reset for me. Good to go. I'm all Apple, everything Apple.
Fancy. G-Bama, we'll see you. Crystal, we'll see you. Agent Dwight, we'll see you guys.
I'll holler at y'all. I'll be back on this week.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll be here. You know where to find us.